All right, good evening. It seems pretty loud, but I think we're recording this for later on, so I'll continue to use the microphone until somebody says they're uncomfortable with it, if that's all right. Good. All right, hey, thanks for coming out tonight. I appreciate the time. I know it was a relatively short notice, and I want you to know that I appreciate everybody's contributions tonight for the staff that's here and for the different agencies. And then for the residents, thanks for taking your time and sharing the evening with us. The whole purpose of this tonight is really twofold. So we haven't done one of these in a while, and Sergeant Major and I wanted to have a town hall to be able to introduce Sergeant Major Mancini to the housing residents and provide some access for Q&A. And then I also like to give an update on what's going on the station and things that are different, especially on New River, where there's so much construction and so much going on, a lot of it from Hurricane Florence from 5 years ago now. You would think we'd be done with all that, but in the installations world, one of the things that I learned really quick after getting here was I really didn't understand military construction, installations, and how some of those things work. But we got a great team of experts here, and it is usual for 5 years down the road from something like this where we get a huge investment of money to start seeing all of these projects come to fruition. So the blessing and the curse of Hurricane Florence is we got a lot of money and a once-in-a-generation opportunity to reinvest in the installation and to do a lot of good things and to repair and replace a lot of buildings and a lot of facilities. The bad part of that is it's all happening at once, and at some points that causes a major inconvenience, changes our way of life and some quality of life issues, especially as we get around the flight line. We look at hangars, parking availability, some of the structures that people are working at. If you were down around MAG 29 about a year ago, they were working in trailers in a lot of places. MAG 29 headquarters are supposed to be a 10-month remodel, and took a little bit longer than that. But we've got a lot of things coming back to the tenant units, and we have a lot more that's going to come back in the next year. So a lot of good things coming on our way. What I want to do then, kind of flow of events, we'll talk about some construction updates. I've got a couple PowerPoint slides. And then after that, a couple public service announcements, and we'll talk about some things specific to housing and what we can do to prepare for the upcoming season for hurricanes and preparedness. But before that, I'd like to introduce Sergeant Major Vic Mancini, who's coming over to us from the other side of the river. He just joined the staff a couple months ago and has already had a huge impact, and we're lucky to have him here. We hit the jackpot when he came over here. He's a great addition to the team, and with his background and where he's been in the last 2 tours specifically, he's really helping out with perspective for us on New River and how we tackle some of these problems. So without further ado, Sergeant Major.
Well, I wasn't planning on speaking at all, but here I am, and I really don't enjoy microphones. So thank you for being here, all right? I know most of you probably would have gone home about 2 hours ago, so I appreciate you here, being here and the time you're taking out of your day for the residents of our communities. I know it's an ongoing struggle always in the housing and trying to keep up with housing, and we got a lot of things that the CEO is going to cover to make what we have better come out here in the near future with windows and doors and such. So, but happy to be here. I appreciate your time, and thank you for coming as a resident of our community. So appreciate you. Sir.
Hey, if you have any questions, please stop at any time throughout the brief. Not just for you, but for anybody in the front. If you have questions on what we're talking about, this is many people's different areas of expertise here, and we're happy to talk and discuss any of these. So what I'd like to do now, we'll go through the construction update. And Exo, do we have a pointer up here? Center stage. All right, it's only a couple slides. We'll give an overview of the air station, and then we'll go through 3 specific areas for. All right, we'll go through 3 specific areas for the construction and some of the things to look at. So if you look at this slide here, this is an overhead view of New River. North is to the 12 o'clock to the top of the screen, with the New River to the east side. As a good pilot, I'm going to talk about how we're bounded and some of the things we do. But first, I want to zoom in here. So this is the northern part of the field. You can see McCutcheon Manor at the top of the screen, and off to the right, you can see a small area Where's the pointer, Julie? Sorry, I didn't pre-flight the... All right. All right, so here you can see McCutcheon Manor, right? And right now we're located at the theater, so we're over here. And then to the right over here is the approach corridor. This is yellowed out because this is the approach corridor for runway 1. Down here on the bottom you can see the mat where we have some of the Ospreys, and then over here on the left is the 53s. So this is Curtis Road coming around here, which is the main road coming in from the main gate, and then over here is Camp Geiger. As we talk about this right now, I want to talk about the northern part of the field, and we're going to work in a counterclockwise fashion going around with all the construction updates. So as you look at this slide, anything in light blue that you see here is water. That's a collection pond or a retention pond somewhere on the base. And this is important later on, so as you look at the next 3 slides, I'd like to reinforce that with the collection ponds. Anything in bright red, like this, is a new construction facility, and anything in royal blue here is a renovation and modernization of a facility. And those are the things that I really want to talk about here as we go around. So the first thing I'm going to talk about, all the way up in the top right-hand corner here, it doesn't have any of the construction codes on it, but this is building 612. It used to be the Youth and Teen Center, and most recently it was home of the wrestling team for the Marine Corps. That has been turned back over to New River from MCCS, and that is going to be a spiritual fitness center. This is going to be the first one in the Marine Corps, and really it's trying to tie some of the initiatives we have with physical health, mental health, emotional health, and tying the whole Marine and whole person concept together to support. So not necessarily religious, but spirituality. And what we found in the religious ministry team and Chaplain Beasley is very much more eloquent on talking about this, is that somebody who has a spiritual belief system, not necessarily religious, but a spiritual belief system, is a much more resilient person. That definition is up to each individual, but having some sort of spirituality is a vast indicator in somebody's resilience and resistance to mental health issues, suicide issues, and some of the other things we see. So we see this building here in 612 as an opportunity. The skate park will stay open. The hockey rink is going to stay open. The playground on it will not be open, but we're going to do some small modernization on the inside, and there will be open areas for use by residents and by Marines. We still haven't totally defined the space yet, but our hopes is we develop this, and as we expand spiritual readiness, which is a Navy mission, specifically Navy Chaplain Corps, and we talk about that. It's a Chief of Naval Operations priority. As we start expanding that, we'll be able to use the Spiritual Fitness Center in a much more aggressive way to assist with some of our other programs we have with prevention specifically. Moving off to the immediate left of 612, right here, McCutcheon Manor. If you've been here for a while, you probably heard that we're looking at a replacement housing area for McCutcheon Manor. We put that in as a request in the POM last year for approval in the budget, and it did not make the funded list. We got recognition that yes, it is a priority because of the age of the housing and the need for it. So we still have that in. We're submitting it again in this year's budget, and it's in part of our request, and it is one of our priorities. The problem is competition with a lot of those priorities means that with a finite pot of money, we don't always get everything funded we want, and sometimes we have to wait several years before we have projects get picked up. A good example of that we'll talk about later on is a fuel farm, where it took us 4 years from our first request to get it to be actually funded in something that's on the schedule. We have another one, which is the replacement HMLA hangar that we actually got approval for and programmed out, but we didn't get any funds for. So we have several projects that are in the queue that we have identified as priorities that are going to come up. So when that does, our initial proposal for that is we're looking at a roughly 200 home project for that to be done in phases, so we don't have to evict all the residents at once, and we can have a logical flow of construction and still provide housing for the enlisted families who choose to live on New River. As that happens, we'll make sure that through AMCC and the RABs that we make sure that residents know as this comes on. But if this gets approved, it'll still be several years down the road. So most of us, except for some of the civilians with legs on them, we probably won't see the end result of that, just because of the cycle it takes. So I would anticipate that it's going to be a good 5 or 6 years before we would break any ground on it if we get it approved right now, and that's just the reality of how we do construction. Next, as we look at some of the projects here, down to the bottom of the screen, just below housing, this is AS 495. This is a new CNAT training facility and headquarters building. The Center for Naval Aviation Technical Training. This trains Osprey and 53 mechanics and crew chiefs in the basic fundamentals they have for aircraft maintenance. And they have almost cut-out models of Ospreys and 53s in there. If you've driven around in that area on Campbell Street to McAvoy, you've probably seen it right next to the water tower. And that's where they do the initial training for Osprey and 53 mechanics. They have throughput from the Air Force, Navy, and Marine Corps, and they're getting 21st century hangars and 21st century aircraft to train on so that they can do all of the things they'll do when they get to the fleet, so we have a much more prepared cadre of Marines when they get to their first duty station. Just below that, we have these blue facilities here. So this big facility you see right here is the V-22 hangar for VMMT 204. That just had some modernization done to it and some renovations. That is complete. Just outside that and to the north of that, we have the tower for air traffic control. The air traffic control facility is pretty old, and we're doing some renovations to that in the next couple of years, specific to the equipment that we use to run the radar and the control tower. So there's going to be some efforts to modernize that. That's going to mean setting up a parallel facility right next to it to host some of that equipment as we do that renovation. Moving on farther to the left, you see this is another big retention pond here. And if you've been out at the corner where the fuel farm is over here, you see the fuel facility. That huge retention pond by VI Pete's that has all the alligators and snapping turtles, that's probably the largest one on the base. As I point out all these retention ponds, it's important to know because one of the projects we have down to the southwest is an infiltration basin that I'm going to point out. But everywhere you see light blue water on here, these large areas of light blue water, these are all going to be funneled down into an infiltration basin, and we'll be able to reclaim some of that land in the next couple of years as we improve the storm surge and the capacity for water handling, stormwater, rainwater, through the infiltration basin. Over here, this is the fuel farm. We have 4 fuel tanks that hold about 900,000 gallons of JP5. Those were built in the 1970s. And we have a plan to replace that facility and move that to the center of the airfield. And when we get down to the southern picture, I'll show you that. But when we talk about removing and replacing the fuel facility and relocating it, that's it. That's where the fuel facility is right now. And if you look at the proximity of the facility to some of the other things in the area, you can see why we'd want to move it. So here's the facility. We have a gym here. We have Delaleo Elementary School. We have a CDC here. We have another area that's going to be a CDC. We also have Marine and Family Programs in here, and then we have the big cantonment area where most of the station headquarters people work, and then right over here on this side we have lots of barracks, right? So there's a whole lot of things around there that we probably shouldn't have a fuel farm next to. So being able to move it to the middle of the airfield is going to be a big win for us. Plus we get 21st century equipment, remove some of those fuel lines from underground, and make everything more resilient and better able to support the Marines on the flight line. Another huge win, if you look over here, this is AS 4000. AS 4000 is the old gym right behind the Single Marine Program building. That just underwent an extensive renovation and it's been closed for a long time. That's opening back up hopefully next month. We've got just about everything finalized with that, just a couple more punch list items on it. It'll get turned back over to us, and when it does, we're going to have a grand opening for that. And coincident with that, we've also got a project in to put 24/7 access for the gym. If you've ever been to Quantico or over to Marsoc or some of the places out in Miramar, there is 24-hour access to gyms, and it's coded just like getting into a flight line or getting into a secure building. You basically register with your CAC at the gym with one of the personnel in the gym during business hours. When you do that, they'll scan your CAC, and then there'll be a certain section with probably machine weights and then fitness cardio equipment that they'll be able to use with 24/7 access. All right, and that's station money that we're investing in that so that we have better access for residents all day long, so 24 hours. It'll be a small area at first, And then hopefully with a lot of the Commandant's investment in 24/7 access to the gyms that he just started, that's about 2 years behind where we were, we should get more access to other gyms on Geiger and 4400 later on, depending on demand. Okay, down here on the bottom left of this slide, 2 buildings in red. This first one here is a barracks. This barracks is a 300-bed barracks. It's been under construction for a couple years now and replaced several that were damaged during Hurricane Florence. It's overrun on timeline a little bit, but everything has with COVID and some of our construction delays that we've had just because of workforce and supply shortages. We're forecast that's going to open in the next couple months, and when it does, that is going to give us the ability to move Marines out of 2 other barracks so we can demolish or renovate those. Right now, building occupancy for the barracks on New River fluctuates between about 75% to 95%, depending on whether we have both MUs in town or a MU deployed. So right now, we're at about 75% barracks occupancy out of our 2,600 bed spaces for enlisted Marines. This is going to help out because we really don't have excess capacity to move people around or to surge if we have a problem with the barracks. This buys us capacity so we can demolish some of our older ones. And our oldest barracks were made in 1983. So we've got 40-year-old barracks that Marines are living in. And we're going to put those Marines in something that's going to be 4 months old. So that's a huge win for us and gets us more barracks and better conditions. One of the other things that comes along with that is the maintenance and the quality of life for the Marines in those barracks. Newer systems, modern. They're better run with technology. We're battling with some old systems that go anywhere from geothermal heating and cooling to 2-pipe systems, which mean you can have heat or you can have cold air, but you can't have both, and there's a transition time. We have old barracks that have external access rooms, more like a motel, and we have newer barracks that have internal access, which are like hotel rooms where you have controlled access in and out from the internal access. Easier to maintain quality of life and security, easier on the HVAC to maintain temperature control and humidity. So big win to get newer barracks with those better systems in them that are going to do better for our Marines, especially as we get towards summertime here in hurricane season. Right next to that, there's another building here. That is the new Naval Medical Center, or Health Clinic, excuse me, for New River. That is going to be a 21st century facility for both medical and dental. We anticipate that's going to open the end of March or beginning of April, and we're pretty excited for that. So 21st century care for the Marine sailors on New River with that system. And we anticipate in the next 2 weeks, we're going to have that ready to go and start moving in, Commander Spray? Yep. Yeah. So we're in the final stages of that. They've already got the shrubs in. They've got some mulch around all the flower beds, and they're pulling down a lot of the fences. So I know everybody's itching to occupy that building. So that's another huge win when we look at the service we provide to Marines and sailors, and even something as simple as Wi-Fi reception in the building. If you've ever been in our medical building, you know it's a black hole of communications, even worse than being on the flight line. So little things like that are big wins with these projects. Definitely didn't pre-flight the pointer. Julie? No? Next slide. Maybe I don't select that. The next slide. Oh, there it is. Awesome. Thanks, XO. All right, so what you're looking at here is the southwestern side of the airfield. So the picture we just looked at, the bottom of the previous slide was right up here. So you're looking at White Street and Canal Street here. And then this is Douglas Road that goes out to the back gate. So same color coding here if you look at the different color slides. So working from top to bottom, we just talked about the new barracks, 707, and the new medical center. Over here, we have modernization projects on 2 different hangars. This is the old MALS 26 hangar. And then over here, this is the former HMH hangar, 3905, which now hosts HMH 461 and soon to be VMM 162, and then VMM 261 when they get back from deployment. So 2 of those modules are complete, 1 more module to go, and that'll be turned back over to us. Another huge win for that is if you look right across the street, there's a parking garage, 600 space parking garage that was just returned to us and complete last month. That is a big deal because if you've ever driven along White Street during the day, it looks like 5 yard sales on a flea market all combined at the same time, right? Now we have 600 parking spots that people can use. That is a huge win, and it even has an elevator that works, so it's ADA compliant with handicap spots, everything you need, and we're working on cleaning up the rest of White Street to make sure we have appropriate crosswalks, signs, speed limits, speed bumps, because there's still a lot of construction going on, because just to the south of that, this huge building right here is a new MAGTAF hangar. So this will be able to host any squadron that the Marine Corps can combine for rotary wing tilt rotor. So you can put a 53K squadron in there, you can put a MU-ACE in there, and it has the room for 2 complete squadrons in it. And when that opens in 2025, that will greatly increase our capacity for spots on the flight line and spots in the hangar. And the big reason we need this is because right down here, this is the current HMLA hangar. If you've been following anything with force design, you know there have been a lot of changes back and forth to aviation and what we need to support the MEF and deployable units. We shrunk down from 3 HMLAs to 1 on the East Coast. We're expanding back to 2. And right now, they're in this hangar, which is quite possibly one of the oldest and least useful hangars that we have for a squadron of that size. So we're going to move those squadrons into the new hangar, and then we're going to demolish that hangar, and we're going to build a new hangar specific to HMLAs that will be able to host squadrons in the 21st century. So when you think about that hangar, that was built in the 70s, and that hangar didn't have any preparations or any capacity to handle things like laser-guided weapons or some of the systems on the aircraft. We have a lot more high-tech equipment when we talk about things that eye-level units or a MALS would need to do to support a unit. We don't have the capacity to handle that in some of those older facilities. Not to mention just things like essential services, plumbing, HVAC, electrical, lights. All those are more expensive and more time-consuming to maintain. So the newer facilities we can get, the better off we're going to be. That's also one of the other projects that we submitted in the budget last year. It got approved, but we didn't get funding for. So we're hoping that we have the funding for it this year as we come through so we can start work on that. All right, last thing I'm going to talk about on this slide, as we look over here, this big red area here, that is the infiltration basin that I was talking about. And all the water you saw in all the other light blue areas is going to be funneled down through stormwater systems into that infiltration basin. 2 big bonuses with that. Not only does it get the water out and get us more area and square footage we can use for other buildings and things we need to fight the wing, but it also removes birds from the airfield. Birds congregate around water, and right now we have water just about every place surrounding the airfield. That will draw all the bird traffic out, and this area is also coincident with where we have the least amount of traffic for anything that we have going in and out of New River. So everybody that's coming in from the north comes in this way. Everything coming in from the south comes in down here and comes into runway 23 and runway 5. So this area right here, because of some of the other things we have located around there, has the least amount of traffic flying over it, so we're keeping all the birds where we have the least amount of airplanes. Huge win. And I do have one saved round. This. Thanks, XO. This area right here, can you go back to that? All right. This area right here is called Echo Island. That used to be grass. We're reclaiming all of that and putting concrete there so we have more tarmac space, so we have more room to park all the aircraft that are going to be here when that opens back up. Because of the larger size of all the aircraft, we need about 99 to 120 feet for an average space for a 53 or a V-22. That means we have less spaces with the current parking plan. We're going to have more apron space and more parking. All right, next slide. Perfect. So now we're going to look at the south and eastern side of the airfield. Okay, we just finished talking about the area over here. This is the infiltration basin. This is the current HMLA hangar. So as we look down here, this is some improvements to the CALA, the Combined Arms Loading Area, okay, that we use for ordnance operations. Okay, and you can see highlighted in yellow here are the approach paths for the runways for instrument approaches. Of note in this slide, right here in the middle of the field, this is where we're going to put our new fuel farm. So it's going to be away from everything that is populated, and we're going to have fuel pits that are coincident with that. Will also give us more space over here where our current fuel pits are that we can use to park aircraft if needed. Next to that, we have the maintenance barn for our MAXDET, Marine Air Control Squadron. So the MAXDET are the ones who do mobile air traffic control for a deployed unit. They do it in a field environment where our ATC personnel do it for a garrison type thing or an air station. They have a small barn down there for some of their vehicles and their tactical equipment. That is scheduled to be finished in the next couple months as well. Okay, as we move over here to the southeast, you can see right here, this is the marina area. Starting in about 3 months, we're going to have a new bathhouse put in at the marina. All right? Big win. We're going to have new higher quality and facilities down there that are better able to handle the traffic from the new facility when we built the marina. So rebuilt the marina, didn't rebuild the bathhouse, and now we're finally getting a new bathhouse there. So we're grateful for that. As we come across the water here in the New River, moving up to the north, this is AS-890, the mega hangar right here, and the parking garage. So in green is the parking garage, in blue is the mega hangar. We call it the mega hangar because it hosts 4 V-22 squadrons. Right now we have a project to renovate the air handlers and the HVAC and the lighting in all 4 modules of that hangar, 1 module at a time. We've timed it with deployments and with other moves for squadrons to have the least impact on the flight line. But over the next year to year and a half, we're going to have all of the air handling and the lighting renovated in there so that we can do all of the maintenance we need to. We can cure aircraft. We have the right lighting in there so we can see to do maintenance on the aircraft. And then on the other side of it, we know that everybody over here on this side of the flight line is kind of alone and unafraid and has a 10-minute drive to get to anything. We're going to have another warehouse over here to help with some of the supply issues and some of the things that those squadrons need for support. Moving up a little bit to the north, you can see this little blue area right here. That blue area is called the Living Shoreline Project. Working with Department of Natural Resources and getting some grants from state and federal agencies, we are going to shore up some of the New River shoreline on there to help prevent erosion and to prevent some of our equipment that we have over there for ground-to-air communications from having to be relocated. That's a great win and a great example of an IGS, which is an intergovernmental agreement that is between the host community and the military to co-pay for a project that has benefits to both. So that's a great example of what we're doing, how we're working with the local community and both state and local agencies. Right over here, the second to last thing we're going to talk about is the new H&HS hangar, which is going to open this fall. When we move that up, we're going to close down the old base ops building, and we're going to move base ops into that hangar as well, and then we're going to build a new crash fire rescue barn in the next couple of years to host that. So when this new hangar opens up, base ops will be run out of there, the C-12s will be parked there, and we'll have a space to host up to a 4 aircraft det for smaller aircraft where they can bring them inside the hangar and do maintenance if they're here for an extended period of time and have a better transient line. Right. Then last, up here at the top, this is the All Hands Club. The All Hands Club has been closed for a couple years. We anticipate getting that back this summer. The internal parts of it are going to be done, completely renovated, 21st century. And as soon as that's done, we'll be able to open it up. Immediately following that, we have another project that's going to happen with it to work on some of the things with the external parts of that hangar that we didn't get to do, or excuse me, of that club that we didn't get to do with the original project. Part of that is going to be the pool. So the pool will not be open this summer, as far as we can tell, just because of the construction that still has to go on outside, and we don't want people trying to swim over there. We might have dangerous environment with construction. So anticipate summer of 2025 will be when that pool opens back up. All right, I just threw a whole lot of stuff out at everybody for construction. It was a quick lap around the airfield. If you have questions on any of it, I can go back and I can talk a little more on it, or I can bring in a lefty from the bullpen from our I&E staff, or for Commander Surrey from Public Works, if you guys have any questions. If not, I'll move on to the next part. All right, awesome. I'm done with the slides. Thankfully, I'm done with the pointer, too. All right, next thing I want to talk about is some of the things we have coming up in housing, and I'm just going to briefly touch on them. If you have any questions, we do have the experts here from the housing team that can be able to talk about that with John and the team over here. But there's several things coming up. Specific to McCutcheon Manor, there's a playground on McAvoy Street that is going to be demoed, right? We got approval for that, and we're working for a time frame in the next couple months to get that, that playground demoed. We're also doing renovation of a basketball court, right? So expect that to happen in the next month or two. And then we have some houses that are being worked on. From Hurricane Florence 5 years ago, we had 2 houses that have to be demolished. Those are in the queue to be demolished soon, and we also have 2 that are undergoing repairs, which are the last 2 that have to be repaired from Florence. Then, all of McCutcheon Manor has a project for window replacement. Vinyl windows going in phases, and you should get notices on that if you're from McCutcheon Manor. But there are going to be new vinyl windows and some of the ancillary things to support those windows that are installed in the houses in McCutcheon. Moving over to Peterfield Point, there's still 1 house in Peterfield Point that has damage from Hurricane Florence that we're fixing. That's on Timmerman Street, and that one is currently under repairs and should be done in the next couple months. Then we'll have 1 more house open for residents in Peterfield. All right, next big thing with housing that we probably really need to talk about and remind everybody, and we're going to get some WAN mail out on this, is the electricity usage. We suspended resident payments for electricity overages during COVID. We're going to restart that cost sharing program. So standard electricity consumption is going to be gauged out for every type of house in every area, and it'll be broadcast out to residents, and you'll get a statement every month if you've ever been through one of these programs before that says, hey, here's what the average usage in your area is, here's what your usage is, and then if you are within, I think it's a $25 window, John, is what it's reasonably been, but yeah, they'll have a window. If you're within that plus or minus 10% or whatever the window is, grace period, nothing owed and nothing returned. If you're in excess on consumption, you'll be charged for it. If you are below the low end of the standard deviation, you'll actually get money back. So it's incentivizing residents to be good stewards of electricity, and you can make some money back on it. As that program gets rolled out, you'll get notifications on it in your email, and we will have stuff about it, advertising when that's going to start and what the program looks like. If you have questions, you can come see us at the end, and we're happy to speak in more detail about that. All right, that's all I had on housing. Do we have anything else, John? Did I hit them all? Yep, come on.
So on that program, thanks, CO, that's going to be at least a year. So what happened is we stopped the program after Florence because we couldn't track it anyway. And then not long after that, the Congress with the NDAA from 2020 suspended it across the entirety of DOD. There were some accusations of improper meters and different things going on in different places. So before the program comes back online, we had to certify to Congress via OSD that every home's been checked, the meter is new and checked, and only then, after they agree, can we restart the program. Why does it matter? Well, it matters because if you live here, pre-Florence, we had 7,500 residents. We got down to 6,200 after Florence because of damage and people leaving, and now we're back now just over 7,000, but we're still spending $1.3 million more per year on electricity with 500 less residents. So you can call it behavior modification, but for everyone that lives here, that $1.3 million is your BAH going to pay electricity bills for everywhere because you pay them via AMCC. So it's important we get some of the behavior modified for those that are on the outside. For those that are good stewards of energy, they'll get a credit, like the CO said. But again, I want to state it's going to be at least a year before that comes back into place.
All right, as that comes out, we'll make sure there's plenty of rollout and lead time on it so everybody understands the program. And we're going to have another town hall, at least one more before that happens, to be able to answer and field more questions on it. But it won't be a surprise when it happens, and we'll make sure everybody has all the opportunity in the world to understand the program as it rolls out. All right, next couple of things I want to talk about aren't necessarily things that are MCCS/food service related, so not really Milcon, but we do have some upgrades to the vendor facilities. The old Marine Federal building is going to have a Panda Express in it. It was Panda Express Hibachi-san. The contract is morphed back and forth a couple times due to the same issues we've had with all the other Milcon, but this was really because the company who's investing in it had other projects they were doing out in Colorado and couldn't invest in both at the same time. But it has been reduced to just a Panda Express, and they're in the design phase again, and hopefully are going to start construction on that so we can see that next year, and that'll be in the Marine Federal Building. We're also going to get another food vendor in the SMP building to replace where the Heavenly Brew Cafe used to be. And a long time ago, it was a Domino's and then a Little Anthony's Pizza. Can't say what the vendor is now, but we're in final negotiations to get another vendor in there to open different food options in the New River area that'll be open longer than the 7-day store. So that'll help out. Look for that to come, and that is probably going to be as soon as the summer of 2024. So in the next couple months, we could see that because there's very little that has to be done to convert that current facility and get people in there. All right, I have 2 more pitches, and after that, we'll migrate over to Q&A. The first pitch is that if you didn't know, the tax center on New River is open. It's in our legal building, AS 216. We have Marines who have been trained, and we have a certified staff that can help if you have very complex returns. But we offer free returns and free service for both federal and state taxes on New River if you're interested in doing that. They do great, and so Sergeant Major and I get to see every ICE comment that comes through New River for every entity, and I have never seen as many positive ICE comments for any entity or any facility as I've seen for the tax center in New River. It is a terrific service, and it's one of the hidden gems, and I know Captain Webster isn't unhappy at all to share his building with them for a couple months out of the year, just because of the traffic it brings in and the huge service it brings to the Marines. And I think last year they said it was in the $4 or $5 million return thing that both Lejeune and New River did to get tax returns for Marines and their families in the area. The service is free. You can go in and walk in, or you can call and make an appointment. Either way, and if you just Google New River Tax Center, it'll give you a location with a PIN and a phone number that you can call and make an appointment, or you can walk in. It's located with in the same building as legal, AS 216. Lastly, since we're coming up on hurricane season, right, and some of the people may be new here or may not have complete access, we do have a notification system that we can use, and we can add anybody who is a military service member or a dependent who is registered in DEERS to get messages on a cell phone or a personal email, right? If you have a service member who is deployed right now and you can't get access to it, we can help you out in our S3 team, and if you let us know afterwards, we can link you up so you can get access to it. But if not, we have pamphlets up here that instructs you how to do it. It's called the ad hoc system, and basically what happens is it's like an Amber Alert for anything we're doing on base, right? We can send out an alert to everybody who's registered in the system that says we're doing a training exercise and this street is going to be closed for these 2 hours, or there's an active shooter at the food line right outside the front gate, and the front gate is going to be on lockdown. We're in force protection condition Delta. So whatever it is, we can give notifications on what happens, what the incident is, where you can go for more information, and when there's an all clear. You can get that on your cell phone or a personal email, and the only requirement to be able to register on your own is have somebody with a CAC that can get on to a government computer. When you do, there's instructions on here to be able to open it, register yourself, and register any dependents who are registered in DEERS with their phone number or personal email. We have some flyers up here, and if you have questions on it, happy to help. And if you can't log on for any reason, I had problems trying to log my wife onto it. Our S3 at station will help you do that and be able to take care of you and make sure you have access to it should you want that. And the time to do that is now, because in the next couple months we get into hurricane season. It sucks to not have all the information right away, and that's the primary means that we push information out to people who live and work on New River. One more thing. Thank you, Julie. I knew I had one more. Hey, we also just got notification today that starting next Monday, both unaccompanied housing and family housing, there's tenant satisfaction surveys and quality of life surveys. So quality of life survey if you live in the barracks, if you live in family housing, tenant satisfaction survey. And I know AMCC is going to be pushing this out, but starting on Monday, the 18th, and going through May 31st, you have the ability to fill out a survey, and what you put on this survey will directly impact the services and the money and the programs we get to make housing better. So Sergeant Major and I and the team are going to have a huge campaign to kind of get out the surveys and make sure people have an opportunity to have their say. But we'd ask that you come up here at the end and you can take one of these flyers for the survey as well. And remember, the more information you put in there and the more detailed it is, the more you can help yourselves and help everybody else who lives and works on New River. All right. I talked a lot. I love a captive audience, but all important information. Hey, we're going to do this again in the fall after we have the big summer PCS season. And I'll do these town halls as long as there's a demand signal for them. So if more people want to do them, let us know. We're happy to come out here and do as many of these town halls as people want. If there's specific topics that you want us to talk about and prepare for in a town hall, we can do that. We did one about a year and a half ago, John, about a year ago, for the third-party inspections to talk about what the process was, the results, and why we were doing them, why were there people coming through your homes. So we're happy to do it for any type of event or issue you have. And if not, we're always accessible. If you have any questions, you can go through your AMCC, your RAB representatives, and Sergeant Major and I, and our S4 and I&E, and all the staff are always at the RABs to as many as we can get to, and you have access to us in the town hall as well. All right, so you can go through housing to get to us. ICE comments work as well, but we'd ask you to go through housing. We're never going to tell anybody to not put in an ICE comment, but we'd ask that you give us an opportunity to work, and if you do put in an ICE comment, please leave contact information so we can follow up and make sure we reconcile and we fix whatever the concern is that you have. All right. At this point, I'm open for questions, and I'll stay here as long as anybody has questions, and that goes for the staff as well. And if you have no questions, thank you very much for your time. I appreciate you taking your time out of this evening to come out here and have a great night. If there are questions, though, if you have a question, I'm going to repeat it on here so we can get it on the video. So if we decide to post this online, that we'll have all the questions as well. Kenny, you got one? Ah, all right. Anything else that I missed, ladies? John? All right. Yeah, good. All right. Oh. Okay. Awesome. Perfect. Great. So if you are a housing resident, you will get notification of those surveys in your email and whatever contact information you have from housing. In addition, we're going to make sure we have it out at the marquees, and we'll have it available at the commissary and the PX so that everybody knows. And the same will go for the unaccompanied housing as well. So if you live in the barracks, there'll be two different survey information flyers up. So make sure you get the one that's appropriate for your residents. All right, thank you all very much. I appreciate your time, and have a great night.